Hi there, how you doing? This is Doc J. Zimmerman, and I have a little bit of a story to tell you. I thought you might find this interesting. Not a lot of people know how or why I got into chiropractic. It's a question that I do get asked periodically, and I enjoy telling the story, so I'm going to tell it to you now. This goes back a long time ago. When I was a little kid, my younger brother had injured his hip joint playing football, and he gradually was having a problem walking where his legs seemed to be turning in and he had a horrible limp. So naturally my mother took him to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician suggested that he go to the orthopedic doctor. So now here we are, we're already starting the referrals. So my brother goes to the orthopedic doctor, and they try, they try some things, some medication and some therapy, and nothing seems to be helping. He still has the limp, which seems to be getting worse. He can't really walk. And one of the nurses at the orthopedic doctor suggested that, sort of whispered in my mother's ear, because this was a long time ago and chiropractic wasn't, it wasn't as popular as it is now. And the nurse whispered in my mother's ear, maybe you should try a chiropractor. And she recommended a chiropractor in our town, Dr. Surran. And I remember I was out in the yard playing, and my mother was taking my brother to the chiropractor, and I remember him very distinctly walking, out of the front door to the car, and he's had this horrible limp, and the leg was turning in, and it was just, just bad. So they went to the chiropractor, and however long they were there, I don't remember, but I do remember the car pulling into the driveway and my brother getting out and just running around perfectly, walking fine. Everything was just not there anymore, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. So that was my first introduction into chiropractic. My brother has a hip injury, he gets fixed. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. But what gets even cooler is the chiropractor was a very special chiropractor, and he was very strong in chiropractic philosophy, and he felt that you couldn't really value chiropractic unless you understand what it is that it could do for you. So he required all of his patients, to be a patient in his practice or to be a member of his practice, you had to go to his healthcare class, his new patient orientation. So my mother, had to do that. And by the time that new patient orientation was done, this Dr. Surran had taught my mother in the class enough about chiropractic that he had made her understand that chiropractic was a healthcare system, not just for aches or pains or even hip problems like my brother had. So my mother did what you would call the unthinkable at the time. She made appointments for my asymptomatic father, my asymptomatic sister, me, her, and my brother. And she took the whole family to the chiropractor. And that was how I got interested in it, because Dr. Surran had taught my mother how it would be used. It's used to help your body be healthier. So we went, and then Dr. Surran gradually became like our family's doctor. We didn't really go to the pediatrician or the medical doctor anymore unless there was a medical problem. So for instance, if I cut my arm and I needed stitches, then yeah, definitely we were going to the doctor. If there was something, if we had a weird type illness, I remember I had mononucleosis, and definitely we went to the medical doctor. But everything else was chiropractor, chiropractor, chiropractor. I remember even having, you'll laugh at this, but I remember even being a kid and just having horrible gas cramps. And, my mother calls up Dr. Surran and says, bring him in, and then he works on me, and then, all the gas cramps were gone. So we used chiropractic as a family back then, to just be healthier. We used it to build our immune system. Dr. Surran was very strong in teaching us that chiropractic helped the body work better and to be healthier. So when we did have a cold, we wouldn't just stay home and rest. We would all go get adjusted. And Dr. Surran, give the guy credit. He didn't care if you were sick. He adjusted you. He just wanted you to be healthy, and he really wore his heart on his sleeve, and he taught everybody about chiropractic. So as a kid, I always had an interest in fitness, and then I started getting into weightlifting and bodybuilding and stuff like that. So as you're doing those things, now your interests you're broaden a little bit. With bodybuilding comes an interest in nutrition, and then you have an interest in anatomy. You have to understand the muscles and how physiology works. So every time I was in Dr. Surran's office, he had all these charts on the wall, sort of like I do, and I would be studying charts, and I'd be asking questions, and he'd be giving me answers. And I was 12, 13 years old. I was actually 12 years old. I think we started when I was 11. And at 12 years old, I was already really, really interested in everything that was going on here. And Dr. Surran really gave an interest in me. He was very encouraging. He would never, always took the time to answer my questions. And then but now I look back at it, he was gradually planting seeds. He'd be like, he would talk to me about chiropractic, but the undertones were maybe you should be a chiropractor, maybe you should be a chiropractor. And darn it, I guess all those subliminal suggestions or seed planting worked, because by the time I was 13 years old, people would, how people asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? At 13, I was answering, I want to be a chiropractor. I want to be a chiropractor. So when I got in high school, I took my courses that were going to help me with chiropractic. I took my sciences, my biology, my chemistry, stuff like that. And then since I knew I was going to be a chiropractor, I didn't even bother going for the 4-year degree. At that time, chiropractic college was not in the university status yet, so they required credits to get in. Like you needed 65 credits in certain subjects, and then you could go to chiropractic school. So they didn't even require a 4-year degree. So I just went and got my 65 credits, and bam, I went to chiropractic school. And Dr. Surran, he mentored me the whole time I was there. I would call, he would call me. He would always tell me, when you're in school, just be a sponge. He goes, it doesn't matter if you disagree with certain philosophies or certain techniques, he goes, just be a sponge and soak everything up. Just keep soaking it up, and it'll just make you be the best chiropractor you can be. So Dr. Surran, as I said, was my, he mentored me, and he was very close with our family, and he's still close with our family. He is my family. I talk to him regularly, see him all the time, but that's how I became a chiropractor. All right, my brother hurt his hip. A nurse tells my mother, go to the chiropractor. My mother goes, actually, thankfully, picks the right chiropractor who teaches chiropractic to my mother. And next thing you know, the whole family goes, and then I'm getting special interest from Dr. Surran to lead me to that profession. So that's the story of how I became a chiropractor. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.